Welcome to the Jordan School District Board of Education study session. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, and present with us are all members of the Board of Education except Daryl Robinson, who will be joining virtually. Are you with us, Daryl?
I'm here.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. So all members, as well as our superintendent, associate superintendent, business administrator, board attorney, and many invited guests. So we're happy to have each of you here. We are going to jump in this evening with a discussion on the West Jordan High School remodel. We will invite Mr. Thomas and Mr. Roberts to the mic to lead us in this discussion. Looking forward to hearing an update.
President George, thank you. We're excited to be here and we're excited to be back with this project. It's been a few minutes since we've talked about it. It's been over a year that our partners with MHTN, Westland Construction, and our teams have been working diligently behind the scenes to architect, design, get stakeholder feedback, and it's been very, very strategic and a very long process, but we're excited to bring it back. The reason behind, the purpose behind this preview tonight is on the 26th, we'll be bringing back to the board what they call a maximum guaranteed price for the project. It's currently out to bid, and I believe it closes on Monday. What we didn't want to do is just come on the 26th and say, well, here you are, approve it. So we wanted to provide a preview, kind of go back in time and show you, take a little road trip back, show you where we've been, where we are now, and where we'll be in the next 3 years. So I will turn the time over to Ian. Again, thanks to MHTN for helping us put this presentation together. It's not long, but it gives you enough information to kind of see where we've been and what we've been up to for the past several months. And then after that, we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Tried it. Doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, mine came up.
I'm on. Okay. As Scott said, we're just kind of circling back, just showing you where we began and kind of the process that we've been going through with the West Jordan High renovation project. Quick little timeline. November 12th of 2024, the board had on their agenda a renovation consideration for West Jordan High School. At that point, the facilities went to work gathering a little bit more information to bring back to the board on the November 26th meeting. At that meeting, we presented 3 different options to the board. One was a 2-year construction window. The second was a 4-year, kind of a hybrid option. And the last was a 6-year construction window, which would be pretty similar to what we did at Bingham High School. December, the board approved the hybrid option to move forward with that 4-year timeline with an overall budget of $80,750,000. At that time, we solicited interest from architectural firms to begin the design process, at which we had a number of architects submit for it, and MHTN was ultimately awarded the project. And we got right into the design. Numerous workshops, so we had many activities with staff, with students, with the AOSs, a number of different groups in order to create or understand the vision that we wanted to create with West Jordan High. Better understand some of the needs of the facility. At that point, we also put out an RFP for interest for the CMGC process, so the construction management general contractor, which was awarded to Westland Construction. So at that point, they came on board and worked with us during these design meetings. They've been very, very beneficial in helping us to identify the current state of the building. They've been in kind of getting behind the ceilings, in the wall, or not in the walls, but giving us kind of a better indication of kind of the constructability of some of the building. So those meetings went from May until about August of 2025 with the staff and all their input. At that point, from September to November 2025, we got into the schematic design phase, which kind of takes those conceptual designs and brings them more to a constructability phase.
Platform, yeah.
Yep. Once that schematic design was complete, we ended up into design development. So kind of just refined the documents, made sure that the constructability was there. And at each of these points in this, we kind of kept a tally on the budget going through it. Bid documents were completed, and we posted them the middle of April. So they are currently out to bid. We are soliciting bids from a number of contractors. So this has actually been run through Westland Construction. They pushed this out to 2,100 different bidders, with still an option for more to come.
And those would be subs, correct? Subcontractors?
Subcontractors. May 19th, we've adjusted that, I believe, to May 18th in hopes to be better prepared to bringing that guaranteed maximum price before the board at the May 26th board meeting. Upon approval at that point, we will begin construction, and we will go over some of the phasing that'll take place there.
Can I interrupt for just a minute? When we bring that back on the 26th, what'll be important to note is it'll be the guaranteed maximum price, and the board set a pretty specific budget for this project. So as we've worked with the contractor and the architect for the past year, we made it clear that, and we typically do this when we do these major projects, is we create bid alternates that gives the board some options. If we're over, we might have to scale some of those back. If we're under, the board can add them on. The board can really do anything they want, but like we usually do, we provide that opportunity so that we can stay within a budget that you've set for us.
Thank you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
As we kicked off the design process for this project, like I said, the initial meeting was to have a vision of kind of what we wanted to accomplish with West Jordan High. Had a couple activities where we went in and kind of identified some of the deficiencies, the needs, the wants, and we were able to put together some guiding principles that helped us with the construction. And it's amazed us at how well they've aligned with our Portrait of a Graduate goals. We see that empowering educators aligns with our high quality instruction. Celebrating diversity is a culture of belonging. Student-centered learning gives opportunities for all learners. Natural connections, one thing that big focus for the school was kind of that natural light, kind of being able to feel like you're in an environment where you can learn, but it'll also help with the student and staff wellness. And then community focused, falling under the effective communication. The slide on the screen currently is showing the kind of a plan view of the site. So we've proposed a 5-classroom addition on the top left corner. There is an athletics addition that'll help us with the weight room, fitness room, and a dance room, and then a tech atrium as well. So the areas in red are a little bit of addition. The areas in blue are where we will look at doing an elevated roof. Part of that natural light will be to raise the commons to allow some sunlight into the building. So this is the proposed overall floor plan. You can kind of see each of the areas. What we've been able to accomplish with a little bit of rework is to bring the departments more together. They are currently kind of spread through the building, and this allows them to function as a whole. And then there's your second floor.
As it currently exists, correct?
This is actually the proposed floor. So you can
Okay.
see all the blue area are classrooms. The kind of the yellow tan area, we're calling it the learning community. It's basically a collaboration space for each of those classrooms to be able to potentially spill out into.
You go back.
So the green is actually our proposed location for science. So it's currently on the first floor, and the spaces weren't deemed to be adequate for them. So we're going to be able to get them up on the second floor, get them all together, and be able to provide the needs for that.
Mm-hmm.
Lab-like classroom.
And special ed moving that down to the first floor.
Special ed will all be on the first floor, yes. Like I said, we will be phasing this project, so it's going to be roughly just a little over a 3-year window. We're going to be looking at it. As you can see what we've got here on the display. That first phase, the blue will be remodel, and the orange will be the new construction. So right off the bat, we'll be looking at that 5 classroom addition and that expansion of the athletics. And then we will be addressing the classrooms, and one thing that Westland has been able to help us with in this phasing is just the logistics of it all. Being able to take first and second floor in hopes to avoid, we're not going to be able to avoid it, but we will minimize the disruption throughout the building. So get tools and everything going in there. It will be making a little bit of noise, but hope to keep it pretty minimal. Second phase, we get into the second level, addressing those science rooms that we just spoke about. We'll get into the media center, and then we will be able to do let me jump back to the first phase. So first phase, we're going to go into the commons and begin part of the structural for raising that roof in there. And the second phase will actually continue beyond. So it's going to be an overbuild that we're actually doing in that location just to keep school going. With the timeline that we've got, we're not able to complete that within that first summer window. And this will allow us to get those structural members in, build around it, and then be able to demo when school's out there. See, everything that's shown in white will be the finished portion of that phase. And then everything in gray is not currently in the phase. As we move on to phase 3, we rework the classrooms where the science is located on the lower floor, and then the classrooms on the upper floor. We get into the CTE areas, make the improvements there, and the locker rooms, which are address all of those during that phase.
Is there any significance to the little?
Is there any significance to that little red rectangle on phase 3? It's right.
Talking right here
Yeah.
in the kitchen, and that is where the dishwasher is located. So that is a piece of equipment that we're going to address during the construction.
Nice find. Good for
It didn't really stick out to me, so yes. So
Out
that
of
is
the
equipment that we're
dishwasher,
going to be
yeah.
able to address in this.
And that's the anticipated ending date would be November of 29, which would take us over 3 years.
And then the treat of the the presentation. So these are some renderings that MHN has been able to put together of the proposed finished building. This is kind of looking at the main entrance and the athletics on the north end. And as you can see, the natural light that we're going to be able to bring into the building with some of those elevated roofs and window systems.
I think right now the cafeteria is kind of a sunken down and then it has a low roof. This will just bring it up to level and then much higher, much light, a lot of light.
Here's the elevation, kind of just looking from basically where the bus drive would be, looking towards that athletics and tech atrium space.
What do you mean by the bus drive?
Pickup drop-off area.
So it'll be switched from,
No, that's just where the photos kind of
oh, you're, okay.
is from.
So is that the north side of the building?
This is going to be the north side of the building where you see the CMU there, the brick, just that top front corner. That's kind of where the driver's ed range currently is. So we've got a little bit of site work to expand that for the footprint of that new addition.
What's the event center?
Yeah, what was the event center? What side of the building was that on?
I think that's the front.
Right.
That's the front on the north parking lot. So now I'm understanding better how this goes. So like we're moving north, because
But
here's
actually,
event
what
center.
is in the event center?
So that is where our tech atrium is going to be located. So this will be access to get into the gym, the tech atrium, and the auditorium.
Okay.
Event center is probably just something that we end up putting there into the design, but we'll
So does
likely
this-
have some permanent text for it.
So that's the east side of the building?
Yes, this is
This
east
one?
looking to the west.
It's looking east or it's
so-
looking
yes,
west?
looking west.
Okay.
So all of these renderings are the front of the building.
So looking east.
It's this? Okay, thank you.
East looking west.
Oh, we're standing east looking west. Okay.
And then this is
Not standing.
Buildings
in front of the
facing
building.
east.
So the back.
Facing east,
this
yes.
side of the building? This
So if you go back to your
Oh, please, yeah. We'll invite Cliff Curtis to the table if that's all right. He'll sit in Daryl's spot.
As you can see, it's pretty significant change to what the school will look like. But what you're seeing is the building is going to be expanding towards the east because the gymnasium was quite large, but we're able to capture some of that space and extend the building a little bit to the north to create a new auxiliary gym. So that's what you're seeing there. The big block on the right is the auxiliary gym portion. And then as you wrap around to the north, there's also an addition that is adding dance, fitness, and weight room, which they don't really currently have in the building. So,
Yeah, their weight room has been an issue for a long time. Yeah.
and if you look at those plans, I'm sure you'll have these files and you can look at it. But something that's really exciting is that the entire building is going to be touched, improved to some level, some significant and some as refresh. But we're really doing our absolute best to be very intentional with the dollars and stretch every dollar. We know the sister school, Alta, and the district to the east did a major renovation. And something as we went and toured with the stakeholder group is they spend a lot of dollars in certain areas, but really didn't affect the teaching spaces in that those portions of the building. So it made it a very intentional effort to meet all of those needs. There's needs across the board. Mike, the principal, has been awesome. He's been engaged the entire way. But I'll
Tell me
keep
what
it
you
short.
mean by the sister school, Alta?
Well, Alta is
Same
a
similar-
repeat. So Alta and West Jordan High are
Okay.
the same floor plan.
The originals. Gotcha.
And they went through a major renovation about 10 years ago. Not quite 10 years ago. Yeah.
So can you tell me about why we are raising the roof in the black box? Are we talking about the black box in the theater? Like,
There is no black box. That's something that was identified as a need.
What do they currently have? They have a theater room, don't they?
So similar to Bingham, this came
Yeah.
from Bingham. Bingham, part of the renovations that you did there is you created a small theater group space. They call it a black box. You can do really small performances or drama and dramatizations. And so this is a similar space. But for acoustics and space needs, the volume needs to be up a little bit.
I was picturing like
Explain it better.
where the lights are, and I was like, why do you want that big? So makes sense now.
I have a question too. So, will systems like plumbing and electrical be worked on too? Any needs that are there?
And a new roof. Yeah, that price includes a new roof.
Lighting throughout will all be upgraded to LED. So, and the building is going to be enhanced to meet higher energy efficiencies. So, as part of the major remodel, we've got to bring it up to current energy codes. So, new roof with added insulation and interior walls furred with insulation. Something that was really a big need that was unidentified was natural light, to bring light into the classrooms and spaces. It also enhances safety and security with that light. So that's something else that's you'll see in the renderings on the very first one. You'll start to see, if you were to look at West Jordan now, the windows are very small and narrow. So we're punching in additional windows into that in the exterior skin. The bones of the building were fantastic structurally, and so it really is enabling us to do more. We don't have to spend those dollars to sink into the hidden structure of the building. So,
And the reason I'm asking about the electrical and plumbing, I'm curious about the plumbing specifically. There have been some concerns brought to me about the plumbing at West Jordan High School, and so I'm curious if you've heard about any of if concerns about plumbing at West Jordan High School have been brought to you, and if those will be addressed in this remodel also. Or
Discolored water when it sits for a while and they don't run it through. Yeah. How is that addressed, Cliff? Can you?
there's a lot of piping throughout. Most all the ceilings are going to be removed, and so there's a lot of areas where piping has to be rerouted and all that. A lot of that is getting replaced as part of the process. Yeah. So, yeah, all the restrooms are getting completely gutted and remodeled. As they currently sit, when they were designed, it was different code requirements, so they don't meet current clearance requirements as they currently are, and so that will all be refreshed. And there'll be added single-use restrooms dispersed throughout the building. John?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Is there anything proposed here that was not done at Bingham High School?
I don't know the answer to that.
They're pretty comparable in what they've done. There is a little more addition on this school with that athletics, but we were able to accomplish that at Bingham within the existing space, to where we didn't have the existing space for the.
So this would bring it up to what Bingham has currently, not beyond? Okay, thank you.
Can I ask about, so when we add things like a tech atrium and the additions, I'm curious about the classrooms. So are we losing classrooms, and that's why we're adding 5 more in?
Ben can talk to that. We did a lot of.
Giving you guys each your
classroom
mic.
counts.
Tell us your name, though.
I'm Ben Hansen with MHTN Architects. In fact, my first project at MHTN was a plumbing upgrade to West Jordan High School. And there's a couple pipes that weren't touched, causing that discoloration that will now be touched. So to answer your question, all of the classrooms are going to be refreshed and upgraded. In the current configuration of West Jordan High School, There's what we'll call raceway corridors that create these interior classroom spaces. Most of them are small. None of them get daylight. They're just not great teaching environments. And so as part of this project, what we're doing is we're remodeling those interior spaces that are technically counted as classrooms. And we're remodeling them to be teacher team rooms to give more support to the faculty. And in addition, some of that space is taken over to create those collaboration spaces. So there are some classrooms that are being removed to create those amenities, and that's why there is that 5 classroom addition. So the current number of teaching spaces is around 90 teaching spaces. With that 5 classroom addition, it brings it back to 90 teaching spaces. We know that there's some demographic shifts that are happening around the high school, and that one chunk is actually, it is a bit alternate. So at the end of the day, the board will be able to decide if they really want to pay for those 5 classrooms and decide if it makes sense demographically with population trends, if it makes sense to do those classrooms or not.
Okay.
That was one of the bid alternates that I was
And
talking
then
about.
something that's built into the design, not necessarily a requirement to use, but those teacher team rooms, they do allow some flexibility where if there was a need for teachers to share classrooms to increase the utilization of the classrooms and accommodate student bodies, that there's that flexibility built in. So it's a support for the faculty, but also adds additional flexibility on how that building gets used to support students as well.
Thank you. Daryl? I mean, Dr. Robinson.
Either one works. Thank you. I wanted to go back to Lisa's question. I wasn't sure I liked the answer. There's been a lot of staff contacting me and saying that they have some real water issues. And you said a lot of the water issues would be taken care of. Is a lot of it going to be taken care of, it or all of it?
I don't want to give any false information, and it would be best to talk to our mechanical engineers on that. But what I can speak to is, like I mentioned, my first project at MHTN was doing the plumbing upgrades at West Jordan High, and what that consisted of was removing all the plumbing that was overhead in the ceilings, all the galvanized piping, and replacing that with copper piping. But what happened is that some galvanized pipe still remained in the walls because it would have been cost prohibitive at that point just to get all the plumbing out of the walls, and very disruptive. And so with this work, pretty much all those locations, the walls are being opened up and the plumbing is being replaced. The one area where we're not doing a lot of work, we are doing some, is in the kitchen area. So that's where I pause and hesitate because I don't know 100% the plumbing that's in there. But I imagine where a lot of that discolored water is showing up is either in restrooms or in classrooms that have plumbing, such as science labs, and those for sure are all 100% being addressed.
We're not 100% sure where the discolored water's coming from.
It comes from galvanized piping that had remained in the building, but I feel pretty confident that that's all being removed. The kitchen area is one area that I wonder about just a little bit.
Okay, and then the second question that they tell me is the HVAC system, that you made a decision not to improve the HVAC system. Is that correct?
Well, it was just put
We
in.
actually got a number of improvements going to the HVAC system.
The chiller was just.
Right.
The chiller was replaced last summer.
Yeah.
Can we just verify with staff what they mean by those issues and just make sure we address that the best we can before we approve this in 2 weeks?
So with the chiller upgrade that happened, I think, a year ago,
It was just last summer.
with this remodel, the boilers are being swapped out with new high efficiency boilers.
So what will
So
be in
now-
our system?
That'll address whatever issues they have on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you, Dr. Robinson, are you getting concerns about the cooling even after the additions in the summer?
Yeah, this is.
Or are you
this
thinking
is
about
very-
last year?
No, this is very recent and very angry teachers that have contacted me and said that we've decided not to do these upgrades. And I tried to explain to them we haven't even approved the upgrades. So I wanted to ask on their behalf, but they're saying this is pretty recent. This was in the last month.
But they're saying that they're currently in the heat?
That's what they're telling me.
Well, with the
Look
building,
into that.
with the building being brought up to energy code and walls, exterior walls being furred and insulated better, and with the roof, the building itself is going to perform a lot better. The existing mechanical system and those upgrades won't have to work as hard as it did previously. So I would imagine, I mean, it's all projected and designed, and real world is something different that we'll see in 3.5 years. But I imagine that the building is going to perform quite well.
Yeah, I have total confidence.
You're always going to have
total
some
confidence in you.
that are uncomfortable no matter.
And I don't know if this helps, Daryl, but I've talked to members of staff about the discomfort at the change of seasons, and I think that the staff has started to start the chillers earlier because temperatures are getting hotter sooner. And I have a family member who teaches who told me that this year is so much better than it was last spring, and that they could tell that the chillers had been turned on and really appreciated that. So, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish what anybody else is experiencing, but I think that, am I correct? I think that facilities made a decision to look at current temperatures and start the chillers sooner, and felt like there would not be the risk of damage to the pipes from freezing. So, is that right?
That's correct. We're aware of a few temperature issues in the kitchen only, but haven't heard any issues that we're aware of in the main building since the transition to the new chiller.
Thanks, Lisa. That helps a lot.
Question? You mentioned that there were 90 teaching spaces, 90 classrooms, I'm guessing. That's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And is that sufficient for the current student body? 90 classrooms.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and to clarify, teaching spaces can comprise of classrooms, but also spaces like
Labs.
gym spaces, lab spaces, dance room, fitness room. That maybe when someone says classroom, that's not what comes to mind.
Yeah. But it's a space where students are taught something.
scheduled to be
there's a course
for
that's
education.
taught, and yeah.
Correct.
My question is, what if the board decides to move West Jordan High from a 10 through 12 to a 9th grade through 12th grade? Will 90 instructional areas be sufficient to handle 9 through 12?
In our initial analysis with student services, we ran several scenarios there, and based on the current trends, that is our understanding that they could transition to that. As a buffer, they included a 5 classroom addition to this design just in case. And again, the board will have the discretion of deciding if they'd like to move forward on that or not.
Yeah,
we did carefully analyze that.
I would just want that to be an option that we could consider.
Right.
If there's not enough space, then we really can't consider it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Cliff, do you or Ben have any comments to that?
Yes, I think it's totally dependent on where your demographic trends go. 90 teaching spaces gives you about 2,000 students at a 75% utilization, which is what a standard utilization is for a high school. Again, those teacher team rooms are designed in flexibility where if you wanted to increase that utilization, you certainly could, which would allow you to support even more students.
The 5 classroom addition is fully designed and detailed. So if it doesn't become part of this addition, it's always something that can be added on at the project in the future.
Okay.
Do you have any sense of the cost savings doing it now versus at a later time, that addition?
Have you seen inflation over the past few years? So it's
Setting
very,
inflation aside.
very unpredictable. History would say you should be able to just count on 3% inflation year by year. We've seen some years go 13% inflation, especially with construction costs. So if you figured worst case scenario, kind of averaged an 8% year by year, it might be what the reality of things. So it's always the best time to build is 3 years ago.
So let me ask the question maybe a different way. Will you have to undo some of the remodel later to add 5 classrooms? Or is it just?
Not in this situation.
Okay.
Nope.
Can I just double check that the teacher collaboration spaces you talked about, if for some reason down the road the school needed those as classrooms, are they sufficiently like up to code to be used as a classroom?
They're not really designed to be utilized as a classroom. It's more of a swing space for teachers to be and have amenities for teachers. Just the proportions of the space would not work as a classroom, but there's office space in there, a little conference area for them, and a little print area and place with a refrigerator. So it gives them a little bit of a home
Okay.
if they had to leave their classroom, and the classroom that they were in had to be used for instruction by a different teacher on their prep period.
I see what you're
Does
saying.
that make sense?
Yes.
If you look at Mountain Ridge classrooms, those classroom sizes are around 940 square feet. West Jordan, because of the way they were existing, they're smaller. Something the teacher team rooms are going to do is remove the desk out of those classrooms, because now the teacher has their home in those teacher team rooms, and they can just come in with a laptop, have a classroom that's really flexible, and it allows multiple teachers to teach in any methodology that they wish. It gives them flexibility. They can move around the space, group tables and chairs together in different fashions, and doesn't lock you into one scenario.
So I'm assuming all of this was in conversations with all the meetings and things with teachers,
With the
staff,
stakeholders, yeah.
and teachers were good with this sort of layout plan
Yeah.
and how they don't have a desk in the classroom, but they'll have it in their separate space. Was I understanding that correctly?
Yes, and that just depends on how Mike ends up fully setting it up, but it's been designed to work in any fashion that the district decides.
But if they wanted the desk in the classroom,
Yes.
They
could
could.
do that too.
And we do have connections for all of that. But it really does, with the smaller areas in the classroom, it gives you that square footage back. And so,
This might seem picky, but I'm curious if this involves like a giant screen in the front of the classroom. I mean, like not a pull down type of screen, but a monitor type of screen or TV type of screen.
Yes, this will be pretty similar to what we were able to do at Bingham and Mountain Ridge.
And like at
We'll
West
have
Jordan Middle School.
86-inch monitors for that teaching wall.
Okay.
Couple additional slides. Well, before we wrap this up, so this is actually a rendering of our commons area. So this is showing the increased ceiling height. That is the auditorium wall. Hopefully be able to have some digital as well. You can see just how much natural light will be able to come.
And this is the space that is currently
Sunk,
a few
yeah.
steps down.
Mhm.
And very dark.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're able to make this space more accessible.
yeah.
Will they be getting a Jumbotron? Is that what that picture is?
Yes, that was, so I don't know if I'd call it a Jumbotron, but it's a large digital
Close.
display.
Yeah.
Hey.
And then this
A
is
bit
the other
option,
side of
right? Sorry, go ahead.
That commons becomes also a teaching, a gathering space where a whole grade level could come together, or all the science groups come together, robotics. If you've been in Mountain Ridge, and I've seen Dr. Godry there playing with the science students before and writing on things that they've made. But that common space, you'll see the science students out there with robotics and doing their experiments and using that space for all kinds of stuff. But that monitor will be available to give presentations. It'll be useful.
This one where it says Home of the Jaguars, what side is that? Like, try to orient me inside this building.
So if you go to the left, that will take you to the main office. So you are facing south in this space.
I might also add, just on the other side of that wall is the addition of a teen center to the high school, which will be a great amenity for the high school.
Yeah. And then to the right would be the lunchroom, or the kitchen. Not right. If you've been in West Jordan, you can just feel the difference in the light and the space.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
One of the things that I have really enjoyed about the Bingham remodel was that there is still a feeling of legacy there. Like, you walk in and you see a blend of new and old, and I think the community is asking for a lot of new, so I love what I'm seeing. But will efforts be made to preserve some of the history of this building?
That's a good question.
Stakeholder meetings, rest, I remember that.
Yes. Yes, it was addressed with the stakeholder group. To be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of legacy that was requested to be salvaged and be integrated into the building. However, there is an existing alumni room, and it is being relocated just adjacent to the commons here, and the memorabilia and components. There's some millwork that was fabricated by one of the previous faculty members that was really important to that community, and it's going to be placed in that space as well. In addition, something that you're not seeing in these renderings, there will be experiential graphics that will be incorporated into the building that are being inspired by input that was received from students and how they see their legacy, as well as the future of the high school being in. Those are still in development, but that will put another layer of meaningfulness into the building.
So I had an opportunity to tour a new school in a different district, and they had a similar idea, but it looked like it was wallpaper. And after less than 1 year, I saw just damage on every one of them. Will it be more durable than wallpaper?
It will be very durable. If you've been into the Jordan Learning Center and seen some of the graphics in that space, it would be a similar quality of both design and installation.
Those also exist at Hidden Valley and West Jordan Middle. So.
Any other questions?
Just a suggestion for Lisa. Before the school year got out in 2019, knowing construction was going to start at Bingham, we held a pipe breaking ceremony to commemorate a major event. And there was a lot of people there, so you may want to think about doing something similar.
So, like, I plan something and put something together?
I worked with the principal, we had students involved, and instead of digging a shovel like a groundbreaking, we all cut a piece of the grungy pipe that was leaking brown water.
Galvanized pipe.
I have
the-
my piece still in my
I was
office.
going to say that.
Were like the alumni association included in that, so that might be.
Yep.
I just want to say, I hope this has been informative. I think that's what Ian's goal was today. It's really to help you guys be able to speak to the community as you are fielding those questions and ensuring that these tax dollars have been treated prudently and sensitively and intentional with everything that's been going on. Daryl, you may not know, but I follow Daryl on Instagram, so I've been following along his conversations and stuff, and there's concerns out there, and we recognize them, and we want to address them and be responsible.
Thanks for addressing those.
And are we able to share the renderings that we're seeing in this presentation with our community members?
I think these are close enough, Ben and Cliff, wouldn't you agree that we'd be comfortable with that? I would certainly take direction from our superintendent or the board.
I would love some consideration to the term event center. I don't love what that brings to mind. It doesn't feel very educational to me.
That's an easy change.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll ask now because it's a little harder once it's on the building.
So do you know what you would like to call it? Just take it off?
Do we label other buildings?
We have.
I'm just asking whether you'd like it to be called something.
I think I need to look more closely at what is in the area. I know you answered it for me, but there was a
The
lot of
auxiliary
information
gym?
tonight.
I personally like it. It matches a university setting that says we have significant events happening on our facility.
Part of it was helping. It doesn't have to be named that, and it's not called out to be named that specifically in the documents. We just did that in the rendering. But to be able to distinguish between the main entrance, when you're doing after-school events, it helps those that are coming easily identify, oh, this is where I'm going.
But
But
would
Matt-
I go in that entrance if I was there for a play
Yeah.
as well as a sporting event?
Yep.
And that's what I mean. I need to look more carefully at what else is in the area. But I don't want the sense that our educational institution is about entertainment.
So, Nikki, are you asking we hold off releasing these except for if people watched it until after we approve it 2 weeks from now?
I thought the answer, well, yeah, that's probably a good idea. We should approve it
I'm good.
before.
I'm good to do that.
Okay. All right. To be continued at the next meeting, right? We'll have another opportunity to ask some questions. I'll ponder words for an event center.
Are there any other, just before we finish, are there any changes or information you need next time we come back? There's the question of the event center name. Anything else that needs to be changed or updated, or information you need next time?
So can I clarify what's going to be brought to us? Will there be specific bids that are closing soon that will be brought to us next
Correct.
meeting?
Yeah,
And
they call it the guaranteed maximum price. So because it's a CMGC, we bring back, instead of a formal bid like we've had, it'll be here's what the contractor has sent out to all of the subs, and here's everything they've gathered back, and where are we in conjunction with the budget that the board set. So it'll be the guaranteed maximum price for the whole project.
okay,
And
just want
along-
to clarify it was all
Yeah.
phases, not
Correct.
just the next one.
And along with that will be, I believe, Ben, three alternates, 3 or 4 different alternates that the board can swing with.
I think there's actually 7.
Oh, are there?
Yeah, some of them are pretty minor, this flooring versus that flooring.
Right.
Really, the major ones are things like the 5 classroom addition. There's some remodel work to the media center as well. That's the bigger alternate as well.
Okay.
So to answer your question, Superintendent, I look forward to more information about the alternates and
And the price.
to make a decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
On those. Yeah.
Any other questions on what's, oh, yeah, there is.
I would like to clarify, page 4, it looks like we kind of went into the driver's ed area. Is that going to be impacted at all? Are we going to need to move that? Are they still going to have a sufficient amount of driver's ed?
They're working with Mike Hutchings on that, the principal at West Jordan High School. We're hoping to relocate that on site so that they can still hold those events at the school during the
Relocate it during construction time, but also for the long term, where you see the word driver's ed is where some additional asphalt will be laid to expand that area to accommodate the driver's ed course.
Is that currently grass?
It is.
Yeah.
And then I was curious, I don't think it's part of this plan, but as a district, once this remodel is finished, we will be removing those 12 temporary portables, and will that just become parking? What is-
Correct. That was the plan.
Okay, I
Is,
just
yeah.
wanted to
It'll just resort back to parking. Well, it wasn't parking before, it was grass, and
Right.
now they'll have additional parking as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. This is
You.
so helpful, and I really appreciate having the meeting ahead to let some of this marinate in our minds so we're better prepared with questions. So thanks for that foresight. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Well,
Looking
thank you
forward
all.
to it.
Where do jaguars live? Is there a jaguar den or a jaguar?
I was thinking about that actually, a jaguar something on
They
that.
live in the jungle
In a tree.
in the Americas, like
Jungle Room
in
and a
North
nod
and
to
South
Elvis
America,
Presley.
but now mostly just in Mexico as far as North America. Yeah.
Wow.
I only see them in trees and movies, so good questions. All right. Let's move on to item 1B, which is a continued discussion on changes to social studies graduation credits. We'll invite Ms. Goff, Ms. Rizzuto up to the mics, and just a summary for those that may be joining us this week. The legislature has passed a law that requires us to increase our civics instruction from a half year to a full year. Of course, there are always other considerations anytime there's a change. So we're having a continued discussion on that. Thank you. Oh, I said Ms. Goff and I don't see her. So thanks for holding it up.
So we're here just to answer questions you have. There's no additional information, but like you said, the law changed and we have to decide how to adapt to that with our requirements.
So there's no information about what it might have looked like if we had to reduce this certain classes, and what kind of a load would that be on our teachers and our curriculum if it had to be reduced? Do we have any information on that, what that would look like?
Let me see if I'm answering your question. If you reduce the 9th grade course, then you are collapsing.
I mean the curriculum itself, right? How much of a lift is it for teachers to go through the curriculum and say, okay, well, we're only going to spend 10 minutes on this and this? Like, how are they going to condense it if we decide to make it a semester, not a year? Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'll ask Kay to respond as well, but we've talked about taking that year-long course in high school. If the board decides to make that a semester requirement instead of a year requirement, that world history class or the world civ class would be 2 semesters, ancient and modern. And then there would be no condensing of the curriculum. It's just students would choose which, one to take, or they could take both, with one of them being required and one of them being an elective. So that
Would that meet the needs of the state standards? Can you just say ancient civilizations aren't important to this child?
I'll let Kay answer that. I don't think that would be our message, but
I just don't know how we give all of the requirements if we made that option available.
So I have up on the screen right now, these are the current standards for world history so that you can kind of see. So they
before
start.
she continues, I think ancient history is really interesting and important, and I think modern history is really interesting and important, but we are trying to find ways to operationalize whatever the board decides.
So you can see some of them I have bolded because these are the ones that we have identified as power standards that and created proficiency scales on for teachers to be able to use. But they go from ancient through modern. So there's a lot. Like I mentioned last time, there's a lot more world history standards. And there are some districts in the state who have cut this in half. And the reality is I've talked with some of my colleagues in other districts to see how they do it. And it's really comes down to the teacher and what ends up getting taught. Because there's no way possible to teach all of this in a semester.
And by talking through solutions, I never want to diminish the amount of work it takes a teacher anytime to try to rework a curriculum. In particular, even in a year, to try to tell the whole of world history is a difficult task. So anytime we're going to cut something in half and reduce the curriculum, whether we split it, whether we condense it, whether we focus on power standards, it's going to be difficult to cover everything as effectively, and it will take a lot of effort to do that. So, and that, for those listening in, there are going to be difficult trade-offs no matter what decision is made. If the graduation requirement is increased, if the graduation requirement stays the same but electives are reduced, if a high school class is reduced or a high school class taught in the middle school is reduced, there will be big adjustments for personnel, curriculum, and we're just trying to think of creative ways to manage all of that, because without diminishing any of the subjects, there's no subject where we think, I wish we were teaching less of that, or I wish we had fewer opportunities there. So it's a difficult choice for everyone.
So I think my question is, we are responsible for teaching each element that the state requires of us. If we were to say this student is only going to learn modern and this student is only going to learn ancient, would we be able to meet the standards the state has set?
Can we offer 2 classes and require them to take 1 and still be in harmony with the state?
Compliance with the credit.
That's something we'll have to find out from the state.
But you haven't.
Not at this point.
That's the information I need.
Me too.
Can we offer 2 classes? You have to take 1, the other can be an elective, but you have to take 1 of the 2. You choose and be in compliance with the state.
Yes, I can find that out. My guess is that it probably will be okay because several of the districts already only require half and they don't get through all of the standards because it's impossible.
And that's why we've put that out there, so that students still have a clear choice to be able to take that. It's modeled after what other districts are already doing.
Can I clarify the questions that we're answering tonight? We're going to decide what direction we're giving the district as far as how many social studies credits will be required for graduation. Will we take that a step further and say geography or world history, or do we just make that first decision and the district will choose?
So I still would like to keep both world history and world geography a whole year required to graduate for each of them, and reduce the number of electives from 7.5 to 7. And so, or from 8 to 7.5, thank you. And so I don't know if we've gotten to this point already of what we want to direct staff to do. Have we already gotten to that point?
Let me maybe clarify. You can decide in this meeting. You can decide in the next meeting. You can ask us for more information, but we're asking for direction from the board on every aspect of how you would like this to be changed. Because the Board of Education has the responsibility for setting graduation requirements. So you have all of those options available to you. Reducing elective requirements, increasing graduation requirements, reducing elective requirements, adjusting what social studies requirements look like, still making it 3.5 but different courses, increasing that to 4. You have all those choices available to you. If there's more information that you need to make that decision, you can ask for that and we can bring it back. If you make that decision later this month in our next meeting, that's an appropriate timeline. This was an opportunity for you to discuss further. I know all of you have been looking into it and been considering it since the last discussion, but we would ask for your direction because then we'll bring back a policy that reflects what you've asked us to, the changes you've asked us to make.
And I'll add that, of course, there's not like a time limit, but right now our principals are hiring, arranging schedules. If we're going to significantly change what those look like, I think the more time we can give them, the better. So in this case, I think you benefit everyone from employees to students if we can make a swift decision on this.
So what I'm
Answer
trying
your
to
question.
gauge, I'm trying to gauge, there's 3 decisions. If we increase
Three
graduation.
choices. There's one
3
decision.
choices, thank you. If we decide to increase required credits for graduation, that's pretty straightforward, right? If we decide to subtract an elective and make 4 credits of social studies, that's pretty straightforward. If we decide that we want to not increase social study credits, do we then need to make a second decision of where that's going to come from? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So, Dr. Godfrey, did I understand in your response that yes, it would be helpful if we were to specify?
That's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
That's a heavy lift for them to
I think that should be
make.
the role of the board.
You can make decisions in phase. I like the way you broke that down, and you're correct. We just need you to make the full decision. However, if you decide, I'm going to repeat what you just said, but if you want to say we're going to keep the social studies credit that's required at 3.5, but we're going to decide in our next meeting what that looks like, you could decide in those phases.
Okay.
But I agree with you that if you say we're going to reduce electives, that doesn't require, there aren't 2 phases to that discussion. So, I mean, there can always be a further discussion of other aspects of graduation requirements if you decide to go in other directions with. But we currently require more social studies than was previously required by the state. But the state is increasing their requirement. So if you want to decide we're keeping social studies credit at 3.5, how we change social studies credit in other ways will be decided in our next meeting. That would make sense to decide in those phases. The other decisions, I think, are one-phase decisions, like you said. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of our last meeting, I was leaning toward cutting or leaving social studies at 3.5 and finding a way to eliminate half a half credit a semester. Now I'm leaning more toward what Lisa just mentioned, to to remove an elective, or and leave social studies at, well, I guess it would be at 4 then, right? From 3.5 to 4, yeah.
I am curious as I was figuring this out between the time of our last meeting, some people I've heard from are concerned that if we increase the social studies credit to 4, that might be an impediment to students graduating. Is that a heavy lift to require another, 0.5? Or how serious would that be? Would we lose students because now it's too hard because they have another half credit in core standards? I just would like some opinion on that. Is that even something that is a concern?
Can I address it?
Sure.
The problem with what I think you're hearing is to take that out of an elective. What you're hearing from a lot of people is that there are students who misuse that choice. But there are a lot of students who use that choice very wisely. I have a son who took 5 AP classes his senior year, passed every test, and started college as a sophomore. If you had required him to take that social studies class instead of that elective, it would have cost him college credit. Now, then there's a student over here that is just taking work release. And to take a semester of work release versus to have them study the world history, that seems like a no-brainer. And so you can't answer that question without saying, yes, some students would use that choice to take a harder class than World Civ. And some students would use that choice to take an easier class than World Civ. So which end of the spectrum do you want to look at? Because if you reduce electives, there are a lot of students who are not going to be able to take an AP class that they wanted to take. Because right now, we offer 4 years worth of elective credit. 8. You can get 8 credits in electives. And so you can break them up by semester, and that's fine, but there are some people who need them kept in year segments. And so it's hard to answer that question because, this student who was planning on taking work release is now going to have to take an extra social studies class, and that might affect his graduation. But this student who was planning on taking an AP class with that elective, the AP class they were planning on taking to some of them say it was less rigorous, or it would be more rigorous than the social studies class. So it's hard to say this is going to affect graduation unless you look at what class would they give up in order to take the required class.
Yeah. And at the same time, how could students that wanted to take AP World Geography or AP World History, how could they do that in a semester? Would we only offer those classes second semester? And would we be able to cram, when I say we, it's not me at all, but enough rigor and information so that they would be adequately prepared for those AP tests? So that's another consideration if we're looking at ability to take AP classes and be prepared to take the tests. Both World Geography and World History offer AP classes in those courses where students can also get college credit.
Can I just speak to that briefly? I'm sorry.
Yes, go for it.
We would not make AP a semester course. We would still offer AP, and it would be a year-long course. So all of that would still be available. The only cramming would be right before the test, but we would not be reducing the time that AP teachers have. It would still be, so that would essentially be your elective, is that you say, instead of taking it for a semester, I'm going to take the whole year because I want to take the AP course.
So are there two different courses, right? Like someone just wants to take World Geography, but someone wants to take World Geography that's AP.
different
So is
courses.
that 2 different courses?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up from our last meeting? The FAQ said that we can no longer do Poli-Sci 1100 as a replacement course. Is there a way to make that into 2 pieces? Because what you're describing is what is being taken here. So my kids are going to graduate as juniors because they've been able to take their U.S. history and their college credit at the same time. That's being taken away from the state. Is there a way that we can work with that and make it possible still for our students?
At this point, we can't answer that because the standards haven't been set. I have talked with Chris Richards-Kong about it, and she thinks that we can, once we know what the standards are, that we can work on that. But we have to wait till the standards are approved by the state.
That's fair. But thanks for being mindful of that. Okay, I'm wondering if this conversation would be more productive if it was built around emotion.
I move that we instruct staff to look at decreasing the number of credits to graduate. Decrease the number of elective credits required for graduation by 1 semester.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Dean, a second by Ms. Wood. I'm going to restate it differently, so listen carefully so you can correct me. That Jordan School District implement a 4-credit requirement for social studies graduation and a 7.5 credit elective requirement for graduation. That's where you were going? Okay, now let's have discussion about that idea.
So I've tried to familiarize myself with what is typical, if that even exists, both in Utah and in the nation with regards to credits required for graduation. It seems to me that going down to 7.5 elective credits would not make us unusual. That's within a typical range from what I've understood. Requiring 4 credits of social studies would be highly unusual. It is rare within Utah and in the nation. I was curious about the highest ranked school districts in the United States and what their requirements are. None of them require 4. I like having rigor in our curriculum. I don't necessarily think that that needs to be required. I think offering AP courses, whether it's required or not, is a motivator for students to take the more challenging courses. I'm just hesitant to require 4 unless as a school board we want to make a statement that we are in a unique time that demands it more than it ever has, because we're making a statement by being unusual. So I just want to be really clear, if we vote that way, that that's our intention.
And I would add, I do not want to be the board that tells them what to choose over letting them choose. I think they make better choices for themselves than we make for them. The state does not require 4. We have never required 4. And we trust that they can make choices for themselves that are better than the choices we can make for them. I understand that there are choices we make for them because we feel these courses you need to take for your survival in society, whether you choose them or not. We're going to choose them for you. For me, social studies does not rise to that level. Therefore, I am very, very content to keep it at what we've always had it and what the state requires of us, which is 3.5. I want to make it available so that they can choose to take it, but I don't want to choose for them as much as I want them to choose for themselves.
Prior to this legislation, was the requirement from the state 3.0? And then it increased because of this, okay.
That's right. So we previously had 3.5. The state was 3.0. And the state increased it to 3.5, but with a very specific course. So we have to decide whether to keep all the courses we have required and add that semester on top of it, or replace a semester of one of our current classes with the very specific class that's required. If the state had just said you need to increase your social studies graduation requirement to 3.5, we'd already be there. But they said you need to increase it to 3.5, and it has to be this specific semester course that you add.
I asked Dr. Anderson earlier if he was aware of any conversation around this new law, what the intention was maybe of the new law, if they were anticipating that school districts would remove a social studies class and replace it with this one, or if they would, or if the intention was just to bump it up and keep everything. But apparently there wasn't. Mike didn't hear any comments around that.
I think the intent was to really emphasize civics and make that a requirement, and then let to the LEAs what they will to decide how that plays out, whether it be keeping it 3.5 or 4, leave that be a local decision. But I think the tone of the legislature was they're worried about a lack of civic engagement with students and lack of civic education in general, and so that was why, their senior year, graduating, voting age, they should be getting that extra credit. I think that was the overall intent, and then leave to the LEAs to decide how that's implemented.
I think another consideration that is pertinent to this discussion is many of us probably remember a little bit of geography and social studies from our elementary experience. I remember having to fill out a map as a child. Now our elementary experience looks different. We have a lot of prescriptive time where we're asking for specific programming to occur. And frequently, it seems that social studies has to take a back seat to some of that literacy and math required time that we're asking. So when you talk about a full year of geography, for some students, that is one of their earliest exposures to geography. In some schools, it looks different at different schools. They choose to do it differently, but I'll use the example where my children go. It's like we do science part of the year and social studies part of the year, and they're trying to fit it in where they can outside of that. So I do think that's something for us to keep at the forefront as we discuss sending students out into the world that understand how to function in a worldwide society that they definitely live in now. And I mean, our dinner conversation the other day was, what's the difference between the state of Washington and Washington, D.C.? And we had to literally get out a map. No, opposite sides of the country, guys. This is not like a county seat. So really an interesting insight as I asked, well, when do you learn maps and when have you seen that? So.
And when I look at the characteristics we want our students to gain here as students in the Jordan School District, I believe that that social studies, I think 4 years is a lot. But I do think that social studies can really strengthen curious thinking, help our students to be more engaged citizens, more empathetic communicators as they understand more about the world and other people who live here, and also responsible teammates for the same reason as they develop a greater understanding of life and life throughout the United States and the whole world. And so I feel like social studies really helps develop these characteristics. And that's one of the big reasons why I support having 4 years of social studies over cutting one of the semesters of world history or world geography.
But that's not the question. The value of social studies is not the question. The question is, can they learn those very things in social studies more than anything else they could choose on their own? That's the question. We're not here to evaluate the value of social studies and whether or not does social studies match all of our desires. That's why you would offer a social studies class. The question is, do you require it? Because that gives them more of a chance to learn those than anything they could choose for themselves. That's the question, not the value of social studies.
I'm not sure I understood exactly what you were saying. So Lisa just kind of enumerated the value of social studies as it relates to the pillars that we have. And are you saying that
there are other courses that could teach that
could teach those
better
same things
than the courses she's
that's the piece
she's
I missed.
requiring students to take?
Are board members ready to vote?
Yes.
I don't know. So this has weighed heavy on my mind and is, to me, very complicated and also very serious because it is the education of our students we're talking about. And so I really appreciate all of the input that I've heard from our teachers. Really appreciate them taking the time to let me know their perspective since they are in the classrooms every day. And I feel like there's this fear that we're gonna lose something by adding the half credit to government civ and possibly, shrinking another class to just a semester. So there's this fear that we're gonna lose something, and I don't want our students to lose anything. I want them to still be well-rounded and well-educated and strong, members of society. And so I would need to be sure that we were meeting state standards if we were to cut a class into 2 parts, so to speak, as we were speaking of with the modern and the ancient civilization. That, I believe, is my hang-up point. I want to make sure we're meeting those state standards and that nothing would be lost in a condensed version, right? We'd still have those courses, but as long as they chose, they'd still get the state standards required. And then I feel like nothing would technically be lost. I feel like that feeling of loss comes if we're talking about condensing, because there's time that's lost in the deep diving of a subject.
So something will be lost because teachers won't be able to go as deep on all of the subjects.
Yes.
So something will be lost. Are you asking, will we be in compliance if we do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And if we cut it in half and they get to choose, I'm taking ancient, I'm taking world or modern. If they just choose that for their half credit, is that in compliance?
If there is not a vote to move forward with 4 social studies credits, that's information we can bring back next time. If there's a vote to reduce, then
Right.
we can talk about how to reduce. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Is there anything you want to add there, Kay?
Yeah, so if a student chooses to take the ancient, then they will be learning about the ancient civilizations and how those were formed and how they impact society today. But then they would miss out on the modern stuff, so they wouldn't learn about World War II, the Holocaust, and things like that, and vice versa, that there would be that content. that would
Unless they
miss.
took it as an elective.
Right.
That's right. And we could do, I hesitate to, well, we can talk more about that if that's where we get to. And we can answer that question about compliance.
So I guess my question is, do we need a replacement motion that we return to this agenda item at a further date? Or do you feel like you can vote on this much of it, just what the motion on the table is tonight?
Because that's a moot point under this motion.
You are correct. I think I would need more information. I think I would need a substitute motion.
You could decline.
I think
If you vote against the motion, that doesn't necessarily pass anything. It just means this motion doesn't pass.
So
Would you rather not vote? Or are you content to vote no on this motion and not have it pass?
Let me
I
try to
think
answer a
I'm-
little bit more. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, you can chime in, but I think I am content to choose a vote for this particular vote.
Thankfully, my next comment is moot then, and I will wait for the vote to decide whether we need to pursue that further.
So I'm going to ask a parliamentarian question. So let's say that this vote fails and later information is not satisfactory. And people say, well, if I had known that, then I wouldn't have voted the way I voted. Can the vote return?
Yes,
Or
but-
the same motion return once it's filled?
Yes, but the motion needs to be made by someone that was on the successful end of the motion. So if it fails, only the no votes can
Bring it
create a
back.
new motion.
Okay. So I just want to make sure everybody's really comfortable with that process.
Let me just make sure I fully understand. So if I vote no on this one, but the information comes back not satisfactory, I can then make the motion to bring this. Great.
You could bring this very motion back.
Okay. But it
The
has
only
to
thing
be
is-
a no vote. It
Yeah.
couldn't have been a yes.
So everyone who votes yes, if it fails, everyone who votes yes cannot make a motion on this subject. Everyone who votes nay could make a motion, even the same motion.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, do you still feel comfortable voting tonight?
I do.
Dr. Robinson, anything from you? I feel like I'm talking to
Yeah.
heaven when I look at him.
Yeah, didn't know we have so many teachers that care about this subject. I'm going to vote yes with Lisa's proposal.
Okay. He sounds ready to vote. So, shall we move to a vote? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, so nays were Mr. Barnett, Mr. Denford, Barrow, and Ms. Wood. So that motion fails. So would you like an alternate motion or would you like more information?
Here I come. So do I need to make a motion to get
Okay,
more
I move that we
information?
postpone this decision until further information is presented.
I move that we postpone this decision until further information is brought to the board on this topic. Do I need
Second.
to clarify?
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Barrow. A motion by Ms. Barrow, second by Ms. Wood, that we move on from this topic and revisit it at a future date. Do we need to discuss?
Does superintendent need clarification on what information we're seeking from you?
After the motion, I'll ask for that.
Oh, okay.
So if you decide, yes, we want to bring it back after we get more information, then I want to talk a little bit more about split class. I want Kay to be able to ask questions for us to. So that's exactly what I'd like to do. Thank you. But it is that's what I'd like to do next.
Board members, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion carries 6-1 with the dissenting vote to Mr. Demford. Dr. Robinson, were you a yay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Before we do that,
I'm sorry,
oh,
can I just ask
Yes.
a clarification on what information you're looking
Sorry.
for? And I want to say
Getting
one
excited
other
for
thing
ya.
to those who are listening. Splitting it to ancient and modern is not intended to diminish either one. It's not to diminish either one by splitting it. In fact, to Kay's point, it would be an enticement. Like, oh, I don't want to miss out on half of history. Instead of suggesting that in a semester you could get it all. It's like, well, if you only take a semester, you're going to miss out on half of it. Like, oh, well, I need ancient and modern. So it was hopefully to make that a little bit easier on teachers and more enticing for students. And because other districts have done that. But it's clear to me that the question about compliance is something we need to address. And we also want to be sure that we've brought any creative options forward. But are there other questions that have not been posed in board meeting that you would need more information on? I know partially getting more information is having the chance to talk with teachers that have contacted you and that sort of thing. Are there other questions that you want to ask for us to research before we bring it back to the agenda next time?
So I want to make sure we're in compliance if we split it.
Yes.
And to be clear, I am only looking at the social studies class in high school that 10th graders take, because I would not want to affect middle school FTE by condensing their geography class. That's where I stand. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I agree.
But so I'd like to make sure we're in compliance if we're splitting this class, and I would like to also see an option if we condense it, you know, what are the main points that we have to hit? What are those standards? And if that's something that you could send to me later, I would like to see those standards laid out. I need that visually.
Any information we share, we'll share with the entire board. Anything else? Okay, is there anything you want to add or ask? Okay. We'll bring it back. We'll provide that information, and we'll post that information as well.
Before you move on, though, I have for you, for the America 250, we made a special America 250 pin, and so I have one of these for all of you. So,
and remind us the day for that presentation again?
On Thursday.
This coming Thursday? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good discussions. Thank you. Board members, I would like to propose that we reorder agenda item 1D as our next agenda item and 1C following that to accommodate some family needs of a staff member. Are you comfortable with that?
Motion is
Yep.
not necessary to reorder.
Okay.
You have the prerogative to do that.
Perfect. I'm not necessarily making a motion. I just want to run it by you before I do it. Okay, wonderful. Then let's move in to 1D, sorry, our boundary discussion regarding undeveloped and newly developed areas. We'll turn it to Mr. Barnett and Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a facilities committee meeting last Thursday or 2 weeks? Yeah. One of the items that was on our agenda was to revisit some cleanup boundary changes. There were two that we had looked at several months ago, and we looked at them again. And in addition to those two cleanups, there were some others that were kind of localized, but were critical. And so Mike and his staff put some information together, brought it to us, and we decided it's time for the board to take a look at it. So I'll let Mike take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barnett. As you mentioned, there are two areas that we're asking you to look at tonight that don't involve any students, that might be a good cleanup opportunity to align feeder systems. And then there are two others that have students involved, but new developments and where they're cutting roads and so forth crosses over current boundary lines that might prove confusing to patrons moving into that area, and we'll go into each of those. But thank you for that setup. I want to just point out any of these boundaries that the board chooses to pursue would be effective in the fall of 2027. So we'd study them out this fall, make a decision on our typical timeline in the fall by November or so, and then have them in place for the following year. And I should add that most of these state law requires us to notify any boundary change, but we'd have to look into. I don't think all of these would require a survey necessarily, especially the ones that don't involve any children. So I just wanted to put that out there. We can do whatever the board wants, but that's something to consider. The first one we want to take a look at here is, and I've just labeled these 1 through 4. The first is airport area boundary adjustment. Just to orient you with my mouse up here on the thing. This is airport number 2, also known as the South Valley Regional Airport. If you look off to the side, this is the approximate location of the district office. On the right, or this big blue line, thick blue line running down the middle, is the boundary between West Jordan High School and Copper Hills High School. The purple line you see here is the boundary between West Hills Middle and Joel P. Jensen Middle. The challenge we have here is when these were designed long ago, Joel P. Jensen's boundary extends to the west side of the airport, but Copper Hills goes to the east side of the airport, thus not aligning them. There are no students that live in this area. This would be a tweak that would involve 0 students, and because of Oker Elementary's boundary also goes to where Joel P.'s is, the possibility would be to move West Jordan's boundary to the current middle school boundary. We displace some pilots, perhaps, some Apache helicopters, but no students in this proposal, and it would align systems. Mr. Barnett asked a question when we were going through our last boundary about alignment of feeder systems, if there was anything where we had where we had some misalignment, and this is one of them.
It actually aligns 2 elementaries with a feeder as well,
Yes.
Oker and Terra Linda.
Correct.
So, dumb it down for me a little. West Jordan High School boundary would expand in your proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would go to the west or to the left on this map. It would increase their geography, but wouldn't impact their student enrollment.
Okay. I just want to make sure I got it, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No. Thank you. So that's proposal number 1. Number 2. Oh, sorry. And this is the area here. It doesn't have where we are here. Number 2. This is a large geographic area. If you can imagine here, just to orient yourselves, this is the very southern tip of our school district. This purple, red, and blue line at the bottom here is not only it's the southern tip of our district, so anything south of that or below that is Alpine School District currently. Okay, the solid line that you see here running down the middle of this tan area is the boundary between Riverton High School, which is on the right-hand side, or the east, and on the left-hand side would be Mountain Ridge High School. When this boundary line was drawn around Moab era, Mountain View Corridor, which runs down here, along this line here, didn't extend all the way down. It only went to Porter Rockwell, which is about right here. So these lines were drawn, these straight lines, and this line, this purple line here is a middle school boundary. These were drawn according to the maps of the day, property lines, survey lines, things like that, because there was no development down there, and anything south of this middle, kind of this line here you see right here, is Camp Williams. And so there will likely never be a development below that line and on this side of the corridor. There are, however, developments going in just off the corridor right in this area. This red dot represents the land that we own in that area that would be suitable for an elementary site. Several of you have been to that site before. So there are streets being cut right now, curbs and gutters are in this area here, and construction is scheduled to begin this summer on some of those. So this area in the middle, this tan area, is currently within the Mountain Point Elementary School, which is, by the way, you remember this is Mountain Point is up here. You can't see it on the map, but Mountain Point and Hidden Valley are up here just in Bluffdale. And Hidden Valley Middle School, but it goes to Mountain Ridge. So we have a feeder system that's not aligned. And in a few months, we could have students moving into this area that are going to, they would be boundaried right now to Mountain Point Elementary, Hidden Valley, but then go to Mountain Ridge. So the question is, what do we do with this area here? Can we align it so that it all feeds into one high school, whether that be the Riverton High School feeder system or the Mountain Ridge High School feeder system? One idea would be to use now the brand new current Mountain View corridor as the high school boundary line and just continue where we have the elementary boundary lines here and going. That's a proposal, but the idea would be to align feeder systems and help students that would be moving into this development area up here have an aligned middle school, high school, and elementary experience.
Clarify, the tan area, if it was readjusted, it would all feed into Fort Harriman Middle and Mountain Ridge High School.
If it was readjusted to go to the Mountain Ridge feeder system, you see South Hills up here in the very top. You could take that to South Hills. You could take it to Fort Harriman. A vast majority of this area is not going to be developed, so you'd be just looking at here. And those are the types of proposals we could bring. Is it South Hills that this area would go to, or is it Fort Harriman, or do we want to include Hidden Valley and have them go across the corridor to it?
So at this point, you're not making a recommendation. We're just saying we're interested in realigning.
Exactly. These are two possibilities that don't involve students, that would be an opportunity to realign feeder systems and get them in place before students start moving into new developments. So that is option number 2. No current students impacted in this one as well. 1 and 2 have no student impact currently.
And we still have to notify the affected schools though, right? Even though there's no students involved?
Yeah, the law is clear on any boundary change that involves a school. We have to notify them. The question would be, do we need to survey if no students are impacted on this? And we could determine that when the board goes through their regular process on the boundary changes.
We can clarify what the notification says. We just have to notify them.
And to that point, Mr. Dunford, I think a notification would look somewhat like we did last boundary change, where big bold letters, this does not impact your student, or this impacts 0 students in this area, just so that it puts people's minds at ease at the very beginning of any notification letter that we send out.
So you're looking for a motion to move forward or not?
We have four potential boundary changes. The first 2 we've gone over, and we would just want direction as to how to proceed. If you went forward with 1 and 2, for example, we would bring boundary proposal maps to you in August or September and go start that regular process.
Are you saying you want a motion before we finish this presentation?
I don't have a preference. We can go through them all and go through it. We can hit them one at a time.
The next 2, 3 and 4, do have student impact.
They do. And it would be appropriate, I think, to actually, now that I say that, to look at number 3, because number 3 is we're going to zoom in on this area up here, because it does get a little more complicated with the new developments that are going in up there where the boundary lines are drawn. So it might be good to look at number 3 before you really decide number 2. Okay.
Can I make a motion for number 1? Just because it seems very easy with no students probably ever involved, unless something happens with the airport. But
That's in order.
Okay. I move that we direct staff to do the necessary study for the airport area boundary adjustment and bring us back the option.
I'll second. Go ahead, Suzanne.
You got it.
Okay, we have a motion for Ms. Dean, a second by Mr. Barnett, that we direct staff to move forward with next steps for option or area 1. Did that cover enough? Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And okay. And any opposed? Right, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on, this is area number 3. So I'm going to toggle back and forth just so you see the red dot that you see in this map in area number 2 is the same red dot you see in area number 3. It's just zoomed in. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Just in that very top area of that map. So it's zoomed in. Just to orient you here, you can see Mountain Ridge High School is right here where my cursor is at the very top of the map. That's the actual high school. And then Ridgeview is right across the way. Mountain View Corridor kind of goes diagonal across this map, and that's a key geographic feature. You see everything below this area of this thick red line, this red and blue line. This is all Mountain Ridge boundary right here. Everybody here goes to Mountain Ridge High School. Everybody in the top right corner goes to Riverton. That's just some orientation. The purple lines are Fort Harriman Middle School, Hidden Valley Middle School here, and South Hills Middle School up here. So we have a kind of a, if you want, there is like a 3 corners area right here, so you could sit and place your feet and hands in 3 elementary or middle school boundaries at one time if you. That's the area that's kind of in question here, because this tan area, in area 1, this tan area has approximately 199, as of this morning, 199 elementary students, 79 middle school students, and 86 high school students that go to Ridgeview, Juniper, South Hills, and Mountain Ridge respectively. So there's a few students in this area. Area number 2 is coming under, this is what brought the question to us, because this is a continuation of this development. It's brand new, and they kind of are drawing roads and putting roads in there, and building will soon be developed. Buildings will soon be built, and this area will be developed. Area number 2 currently goes to Mountain Point Elementary over in Blufftail, South Hills Middle School in Riverton, and Mountain Ridge High School in Harriman. So one idea would be to adjust the boundaries to align with new roads in the developments, approach the idea of aligning feeder systems. The impact would be, in this case, substantial potentially to these 350-ish students. But it would be an opportunity, perhaps, if these students currently go to Ridgeview and Juniper, which is a growing area, you could look at extending them and taking them, because we bus them across the corridor currently, to go over to Ridgeview and Juniper and South Hills and Mountain Ridge. You could look at taking these elementary students to, say, Black Ridge or Foothills that are contiguous. They touch them right now. That would be an idea or an example of an option. You could also consider taking this area to Ridgeview, to Mountain Ridge, or to South Hills, or to Fort Harriman. Yeah, the name, lots of ridges in there.
The issue that we're trying to avoid, though, with that new number 2 area is that those students would end up attending Mountain Point Elementary, is that right?
Correct.
And also Hidden Valley Middle School?
They would go to Mountain Point Elementary, but South Hills Middle School and Mountain Ridge High School.
Okay.
This is a continuation of this development. For, one of the things that brought it to our attention, like, these guys aren't going to know a whole lot of different. You're going to drive through that neighborhood, and all of a sudden you're going to be in a different school boundary, and we try to avoid that where we can, where we're splitting boundaries right down the middle of a development.
So is the goal then to to have 1 and 2 in the same elementary, middle, and high school?
It would make sense to keep all of the tan area, that new development, together in one area. And at the same time, since one of the board's desires has been to align feeder systems, we could look at doing that as well.
Are you considering any high school boundary adjustments?
Not here, because you can
They'll
see
go to
everything
Mountain
in
Ridge.
here is in Mountain Ridge High School. So everybody you see, except for that very top right corner, is already going to Mountain Ridge. It's just the alignment of the middle school and the elementary schools to it.
Given the size of Juniper and Ridgeview compared to Black Ridge, man, I'd love to see that area eventually transition to Black Ridge.
If
So I'm kind
Oh, sorry.
of supportive of that, but what I'm not confident is that we have room. I was not in favor of bringing this forward to the board yet until I'd had the conversations with student services. What I don't want to see with 3 and 4 is continuing to notify these communities that we're going to make a change
We haven't gotten to
and then change it again and change it again. Even though they're different areas, you still, people might not read that first line that says this doesn't affect you. So that's my apprehensive in moving this forward.
So the decision we're hoping to make tonight is whether or not we want you to study this further.
Yep. Do you want us to go further? Do you want us to bring you options? And to Dr. Robinson's point here, we would have to notify the schools that are impacted, meaning the middle schools and the elementary schools in this area. We wouldn't have to notify the high schools. And we would preface the letter with, this does not impact your area, or this does impact your area if we were sending it to the tan shaded area.
So and I know we've been through this and I apologize, I haven't sorted it yet, but we vote for you to yes, study it, and then you bring it back to us before you would even send that out.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. We would bring you options. I mean, the next step would come to you in August or early September and bring you proposed options if you wanted to move forward and just look at the idea. You could always at that point say, nope, we're good. We don't want to move forward.
And then in that case, then nobody's notified.
Correct. We just have to meet
Nothing
the
to undo.
legal requirement of the number of days in advance of making a decision if we were going to do that.
Thank you for helping.
And no one would change middle schools. We would just have to notify them.
That's correct. Yeah. Because
the
this
only
is the only, it's this number 2 where nobody lives right now is the only middle school hiccup. So really we would be notifying, the adjacent elementary schools, Ridgeview, Juniper, Black Ridge, and Foothills about a potential change and shift from one to the other.
But even that, isn't number 2 going to South Hills?
Number 2 currently goes to South Hills and Mountain Point Elementary School. So
So
again,
what middle school change would we be making? I don't see a middle school change here at all.
if you took number 2 to Fort Harriman, if you were considering that option, we would
Oh,
need to
okay.
notify Fort Harriman.
Okay.
If you wanted to keep them at South Hills, right now this area right here is all bused to South Hills across the corridor. So if we were proposing to keep them more, on that side of the corridor to Fort Harriman, then we would notify Fort Harriman. If not, and there would be an option probably that would look at both.
Could I clarify the map number 2? That would affect high school boundaries. Is that correct?
It would, it would impact high school boundaries. We would have to notify the high schools that say this impacts 0 students anywhere. We need to notify you, and then whether or not we even have to survey, that would be up to the board. Surveys are not required by law. Notification is.
Okay.
So that's number 3.
Great.
Number 4, if I'm going to orient where we are here, this is in Harriman. Harriman Elementary School, if you know where that is this light shaded building right here. That is Harriman Elementary School. The development in question is in yellow here. It's called the Homestead at Butterfield. There are no homes in this area yet. It's just, they just paved the roads in. Back when these boundary lines were drawn 7 years ago or so, this was open field space and owned by different farmers and landowners. And we drew the current red boundary between Oakleaf and Harriman Elementary School, of course, according to the parcels that were owned by various landowners. Since then, the developers have come in and purchased land from various landowners and created this yellow new development called the Homestead. There is also a development here that's fairly new. There are 10 brand new homes in this area just to the bottom of where it says Oakleaf Elementary. And Holly's Pond Lane, you can drive out there. They're brand new. There's a few empty lots still here, but there are homes going in as we speak here. It's not part of this area, and it doesn't get directly, but you can see this development gets split right down the middle by our boundaries. We are getting inquiries from homeowners that have purchased land here and are building a home in the yellow area to see if they can go to Oakleaf on permit, because the rest of the neighborhood in this area goes to Oakleaf. This is what we knew this development began, or the transaction was made and the permits were pulled just late last year, and so it's come to our attention, and we're getting permit requests for the next school year, inquiries about it. So we feel like this is something that needs to be clarified one way or the other. Oakleaf, as you know, is set to grow, in the future with the new developments that are out there in the west. Harriman Elementary has a modest decline over the next few years. One idea that, for instance, if we were to bring options, you could move this red elementary school boundary line to align with the high school and middle school feeder system there. So that this area that is now represented right here that says Oakleaf in it, there are 14 elementary age students that live here currently. And the proposal could be something like bring that to there so that these students all go to Harriman Elementary School. By the way, I was driving out there just the other day. You can see the rooftop of Harriman Elementary School from this neighborhood right here. So it's very close. Oakleaf is not too far away, but it is certainly farther than Harriman Elementary School. So that's the proposal for number 4.
And on this one, the students in this area, if we moved it to match with the purple-blue line, then they would be going to Copper Mountain and Harriman with everyone else. But right now they're permitting to Oakleaf, and
Right.
those kids are set to go to Fort Harriman and Mountain Ridge.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. And so half of them, like this, if you were to keep that homestead area split, half of them would go to Copper Mountain Middle, half of them would go to Fort, they would go to different feeder systems. It would be strange to have them go to different elementaries and then also to different feeder systems. That's the challenge there.
The tricky thing is you've got kids that are already established at Oakleaf that we would be then moving over to Harriman.
Yep.
And how
Yes.
many kids did you say that was?
Currently 14. As of this
Okay.
morning, it's 14. I think Oakleaf has enough room for the next several years. They're going to be in the 780s, I believe, by 2030-ish. And they would have room for those students to permit to the school of their choice. It would just clarify the boundary lines so that, when people are coming in, they like to know which school is which and where they're heading, and that would be their default. But having the choice to go to other schools, of course, via the permit process.
Harriman is below capacity, but it doesn't drop. It stays fairly consistent.
It's pretty consistent downward trend.
Oakleaf shoots up pretty quickly.
Those are the ideas. Those are the, again, 2 without students, 2 with students. The 2 with students, we just need to, I think, give some clarity to the homeowners that would be moving in and align some things, because otherwise we're splitting literally right down the middle of a subdivision, potentially in the middle of a home here. Like there could be a home that gets built right on that line.
So one child in this bedroom.
That's right. A house divided, if you will.
I'll make a motion that we direct staff to move ahead with 2, 3, and 4, and come back in the fall with some recommendations.
A second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barnett, a second by Ms. Wood to direct staff to move forward with options 2 through 4. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in
Wait,
favor?
wait,
Oh,
sorry. You were very quick.
Sorry.
I would like a little more of a holistic look at option 4 in regards to the surrounding elementaries. Dr. Robinson has brought this up before, and I agree that at least option 4 deserves a more holistic look. I would like to potentially make a substitute motion, and that we at least immediately ask staff to just look at areas 2 and 3. I feel like those are a little more clean cut, while we wait on option 4 to get a more of a holistic look.
If that's a motion, I'll second it. I would have voted no against this without your substitute motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Barrow, a second by Dr. Robinson, that we direct staff only in areas 2 and 3. Is there discussion to that?
Can I understand the holistic? You mean just a larger geographic area?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to speak to this, Dr. Robinson, since it's your area.
I'll speak to it.
Yeah, I can speak. You can go ahead.
The trigger point is Aspen. Aspen is going to need a boundary change, and that's going to affect Oak Leaf, which is going to affect its neighbors. And so to divorce this from the Aspen boundary change would be awkward, because there is no question Aspen is going to need a boundary change, and that's going to affect its neighbors.
And is that timing different, or could we simply direct staff to include Aspen in number 4 as part of?
It would include Aspen and a whole domino of them.
Ah.
Yeah. That area is Butterfield Canyon and Harriman and Oak Leaf and possibly Bastion, Aspen, Black Ridge. So
do you want to tackle that all at one time, or do you just want to do kind of the easy ones? This doesn't really affect anyone, and then we tackle that separately. That's the question.
And my question is, would there be different timing on it, or would the timing remain the same for this fall?
So my
if we just look at number 4
is-
right now, then maybe it would be the fall, just like the motion. If you make it broader, would we still be looking at a fall review of this, or would you be slowing it down and saying, we want to look at all of this and therefore it might not happen for a year?
What was the timeline on Aspen this fall?
What do you mean? The timeline for?
You postponed your recommendation. Facilities recommended not taking action
Correct.
at Aspen until when?
We would reevaluate, I think, next year and just look at it. It wasn't anything that was needed for this fall for the next school year.
So yes, timing is quite different.
I would just point out that homes are currently being built in the yellow area, and there will be people asking for clarity on that. We could definitely expand the focus in some way.
Sooner than the Aspen issue.
We could
So can I speak?
Go ahead.
So my concern is we notified the people in this area already about a boundary change, and then we tabled it. And now we're going to notify another. They're anxious. They're wondering when we're going to make a move. Now we're going to just move a little section only to come back later and make a bigger move. And so if we do make this move, as long as I'm not on the board, I'm not going to make a boundary change in this area. Because even though it's not affecting everyone, they feel the effect when we notify them.
One of the concerns that was brought up in facilities committee on this area was, this multiple notification. And staff, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but staff seemed to think that if we made a change in this area, that it would last for several years, I think was the comment. Is that still valid, Mike?
I mean, if we made just this number 4 change,
Yes, just that surgical change, right?
the
there.
surgical change would last several years between Oakleaf and Harriman. Would be good for several years there. I think the broader question is, do we want to address what will, at some point in the near future, maybe it's next year, maybe it's the year after, addressing Aspen Elementary's growth. And as we looked at
Which then affects these areas.
yes, it could. But this, I'm just knowing the proximity to Harriman Elementary. I think rather than what we call sometimes ping-ponging this area back and forth, it would be hard for me to imagine a scenario that this area next to Harriman Elementary would be, we could look at leaving them alone for a while, and a scenario does not involve taking them back to another elementary, if that makes sense.
See, and in my opinion, being notified that this doesn't affect you is very different than this being notified and not having that clarity and maybe this affects you. I just don't think people get notification fatigue when we're very careful to say, this does not affect you, but we are legally required to notify you. I don't think we hold off on taking action that's needed because someone might feel notification fatigue, even though they're being told this has no impact on you.
That's different than the people that have been reaching out to me in this area.
They have fatigue even though when they're told it has no effect on them.
Yeah, they're on pins and needles knowing that there's going to be a Donamo because of Aspen. And so they think that they've moved a lot, and they have, but this would just be another move. And this move is a smart move. The question is, it just causes anxiety through the rest of the area.
Even
that I
when
would
they're
like to avoid.
Even that when they're told it has no impact on them.
Yeah, because they know a change is coming. They know a change is going to be coming sooner or later.
Okay, but they know that no matter what we do. Why not solve this problem, correct the problem at hand? They're still going to have that anxiety whether we notify them or not.
Yeah, I'm just against that. You guys can move forward. You don't need my vote. I'm just against. I'm against not giving these guys in this area a clear picture of what the long-term lines are going to be.
If this area, number 4, if that line, Harriman Elementary School line, gets moved westward to align with the Copper Mountain Harriman feeder system, and we don't plan on ping-ponging that back, then I would rescind my substitute motion if that is allowed.
It's not. She's already stated
Okay,
that.
great.
But you can vote no on your substitute motion.
Okay.
I don't think there is ever a chance that area would ever go back to Oakleaf, given the growth that's coming to Oakleaf. If we move them to Harriman, they're never going back to Oakleaf.
So it could solve the anxiety by answering the question today instead of next year or the year after. Okay.
I don't think this area is going back. Again, I think what you're doing is creating an additional anxiety for neighborhoods that we don't need to do.
But I do like that we're doing it early when, I mean, there's impact, but 14 students is not a ton of impact.
14 students.
Whereas if we wait, I think that will change quickly.
It will change, and remember that all of 14 would have
Plenty of time to choose.
an opportunity to go to permit to either school or to any school outside of their boundary. There's room in those schools. Butterfield Canyon, there's room in Oakleaf.
Well, they're in the more crowded school. So if they stay in the crowded school, there'd be no problem moving to a less crowded school.
They have choice.
So just to clarify, the discussion on the table right now is a motion for areas 2 and 3. But it seems like we're only talking about 4, which is not within the motion. Just pointing that out.
Let's just,
Well, the motion mostly has to do with eliminating 4.
We're waiting on 4,
Yeah.
whether or not we want to
Not
wait.
necessarily approving 2
That
and
was
3.
not the motion. The motion was to approve 2 and 3.
I move that we
We
call
have
the
a motion. Oh, call the
question.
question, okay. All right, 2/3 vote for call the question. Okay, all in favor of call the question, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, so we're gonna move to a vote immediately. All those in favor of the motion, which is to direct staff to move forward in areas 2 and 3, please say aye. Aye. And any
Aye.
opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, that motion carries 5-2 with the dissenting votes going to Mr. Barnett and Mr. Denford. Did I hear you, Miss Barrow?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, I don't know if I heard her voice. Okay, perfect. So now, if you would like a motion.
Can I make
for
a
4.
motion that we ask staff to move forward with Area 4 homestead boundary adjustment?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wood, a second by Mr. Denford to direct staff to move forward with Area 4. Any discussion? Can I just ask a clarifying question on that motion? Are you saying as the slide shows?
Yes.
Currently? Okay. Do you feel like it is plausible that we could take a bigger look at elementary boundaries at a later date and leave whatever changes we made with Area 4 intact?
I think that's very possible. I think that's very doable.
Highly likely.
I think many of my questions can be answered with me in a meeting with student services, which was agreed upon in the facilities meeting. So why this was brought forward without that discussion, I don't know.
Well, I think it was because we had a 2-3 vote to bring it forward, right? Or a 2-1 vote, I should say.
We didn't make a vote, but
I didn't hear concerns on the draft agenda. Sorry, I didn't know that this was something that was controversial.
And Mr. Robinson, we'd be happy to meet with you and answer any questions you have.
Is there any
And
other?
to
oh,
his
sorry.
concern, we're going to see this again and vote on it again before notifications go out. So if his concern is notification, he'll have a future opportunity to stop the notifications from going out. Is that true?
We can bring options back and you look at them and you decide whether or not you want to bring them forward to the public. We would need to notify at that point.
So your intention is not to move forward with notifications.
Correct.
Your intention is to move forward with options.
That's correct.
Okay. Then I'm very content.
I could probably vote for that. I'm a little bit disappointed that this came forward.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to direct staff to move forward with Area 4 as presented tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
I'll oppose.
Okay, that motion carries with the opposing vote going to Dr. Robinson. Okay, great. Looks like we are at the end of this agenda item. Board members, we do need a break at some point, but we have asked our visitors to stay through an extra agenda. Are you up for a power through? I'm told this is likely a quick one. Hey, I don't hear anyone saying no. So let's move forward with agenda item 1C. Thanks for your patience.
There we go.
They turn off now. We're throwing you a new loop.
We appreciate the opportunity to come in and present a couple changes to a few policies that we have. I'm Brent Burge. Some of you, I'm one of the HR administrators in the district. We have two policies. First of all, what I'd like to do, Rebecca Eastman is our HR generalist that works with all of our employees. And I would like to give a shout out to her. She does a fantastic job meeting with employees, even sometimes giving bad news if needed, but I appreciate all the work she does. We have two policies that we need to make a draft on or make a proposed change. The first one is the postpartum recovery parental leave. It seems that the legislature changes this every year in the legislation, and so we come back every year to present some additional changes. So this was in House Bill 329, I believe. And the biggest changes they made to this was to add adoption and foster as a specific line out as far as eligibility to take parental leave. We have postpartum, which is 3 weeks. We have parental leave, which is 3 weeks. And last year we created the policies that had the very specifics on when you could use them, whether it's consecutive or not, if you can use it intermittently. But now they've added specifically adoption and foster. We had a portion in here about adoption, but it gave them the option to either use the parental leave policy or the sick leave policy that was the original adoption coverage. This is actually putting it specifically into this policy, and we would be recommending to remove it from the sick leave policy, the adoption part. It is adding foster as well. And the foster is a little different because it's allowing up to 4 weeks of paid leave as opposed to 3 weeks on every other, whether it's adoption or regular birth of a baby. And so those are the specific changes. There are quite a few. We've worked with Mr. Van Komen to review the law. And so we've made all those changes into the policy. I'm assuming all of you had the copy of that. And those are the main changes to this. Do you have any specific questions about the changes to this policy?
I was curious in the one on foster leave where it gives the 4 weeks, like you'd mentioned, and that if both parents work in the district, they would have to split the 4 weeks. Is that part of the law?
It is.
Thank you.
Can I give you a scenario and have you tell me how it would play out?
I love scenarios.
Okay.
We will do our best.
So, two parents have decided to adopt a child. That child is placed with them. Adoption's not finalized for 6 months, but they're considered in foster care. Do they get access to the foster care leave? And then once the adoption is finalized, they get the adoption, or how does that work?
I believe the policy, and clarify if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you can use both the foster and the adoption together because that extends it longer than the law requires. So I think you would pick one or the other to use.
So you can pick if you want to use the foster when they're placed with you or the adoption when it's finalized.
You can always elect not to apply for the benefit, sure. But
You max out in a 12-month period. So there's only so much you get.
Can I speak to that as well?
Please.
So with the foster leave, it can be taken intermittently. So you're going to be seeing that with the court cases and taking everything in that consideration. But when it gets to the adoption, they can't take both, which is the 7 weeks of leave. And the foster leave and adoption, both of them have to be taken within 6 months of the event. So yes, they could take the foster, get kind of that same benefit, they just can't.
So if they wanted to split it up, that would not be a possibility.
Split what up? Sorry.
Like, I want to take part of my foster and then use the rest of it when we finalize the adoption.
We haven't explored that yet.
There are provisions where if it's for the same
child
or same young child, they can't take both beyond what's permitted. So you don't, and it's in essence, it's there. The law tries to prevent sort of a doubling up.
I would imagine that's a realistic scenario.
Yes, it is.
Bless their hearts.
Yes. And I think from my personal perspective, the foster leave giving 4 weeks was an attempt to get more foster parents, which is why that benefit was increased, whereas adoption was not
Historically, we're only looking maybe 4
per year.
that were
Okay.
So just to clarify, they can't take both foster leave and adoption leave
For the same child.
for the same child, no matter where it falls, if it splits up or it's back to back, not for the same child. Okay, thank you.
It also prevents, for example, you marry into a family with kids and you try to adopt those kids of your new spouse. You can't use adoption leave for that because it's already part of the family.
We're just looking for when the board would like to adopt this policy.
Do we get to take leave? Just joking.
only within 6
Yes.
months.
As soon as you adopt it, we get to take leave for a few minutes, so.
Is anyone having questions that they need answered if we were to put this on the business agenda for next board meeting?
I just want to say the law goes into effect on July 1. So just to keep that in mind.
Okay, so we should be okay, May 26th.
You actually may want to postpone it
wonder.
until the law takes effect, but
I'm fine doing it a little early just because of our schedule.
You have June 9th also.
Got June 9th, but it's also a budget hearing.
I don't think there's any need to delay, but you can also vote and say it's effective July 1. You can just vote and give an effective date as well.
I like
Honestly, this isn't really a gain. Honestly, they're kind of,
It's
I
a
don't
gain
wanna
for
say
foster.
losing, but
It's a gain for foster.
Yeah. That
Because-
is the real difference in this is the foster leave added.
So if you were to foster but not adopt, then you get 4 weeks that you would not receive otherwise.
okay. So I think everyone's comfortable moving forward with it on the next agenda.
Very much so.
Okay.
Excellent. So the second one was our family medical leave, and this has been in place for, can't even read the date, for a very long time. And so Rebecca's going to talk about it's a very small change, however, we think it's significant, and we wanted to talk about that, bring it up.
So I in particular wanted to really move towards where HR is going with the leave calendars that we use for FMLA. So currently we use the 12-month calendar that's on a fixed schedule for our contract year. When we're looking in the general, employers all around, about 72% of them use the rollback method, which is what we'd like to move to. The difference in that, everybody still gets 12 weeks of FMLA. So we're not moving anything like that. They still get everything they're entitled to with the law. What we have now with the fixed calendars, they can stack their leave. So we're talking about individuals that go, for teachers in particular, individuals go on FMLA leave starting in March. They are continuing on FMLA till the end of their contract year. The summer months count as them being continuous on FMLA, so they don't lose any benefit there. And then they get their additional 12 weeks for the new contract year. So they're out of the classroom. 3 months would be the normal for school, but they would have 9 months of leave outside of the classroom. So it causes all different types of things. One of them is the conflict with our 180-day long-term disability policy, because this often pushes them past that 180-day mark, which, if you're in I work a lot with the insurance department. So trying to figure out where that line is going to start and how much are they going to make here, and then offset it with what New York Life will pay, it just causes some inconsistencies there. So that is our main thing. The other changes that we have in the policy, most of it is just to get us up to where the law is, just changing some of those wordings, and guidelines, and moving it from our old policy of leave policy that used alternative leave and family sick leave, moving that into where it says annual instead of personal and those other types of leave. We also, the other portion that we added was the information that has been in the law, but the information regarding how FMLA can apply to specifically to instructional staff when it comes towards the end of semesters or the end of the contract year, and making sure that we have that consistency in the classroom for the students. And we added in a statement clarifying that the leave could qualify for both ADA and FMLA and run concurrently in order of that time frame.
I think it would be helpful if we explained what method we're looking to do or how it would work. Give an
I was
example
just gonna
of what that
say. Sorry to be redundant, but can you tell me
No,
what
we
that
want
looks
we
like?
want to make sure it's very
I-
clear what we're trying to do.
Ask as many questions you want, because I deal with it every day and then I don't know what I've said. So with our calendar now, we do a contract year, July 1 to June 30th. Now it would be, so for instance, if you were to take FMLA today, we would look back 12 months to check and see how many hours you've worked within that 12 months. And if you've been an employee longer than 12 months, to see if you would be eligible for FMLA. We would use that same calendar to look and see how much FMLA of your 12-week eligibility that you have used during that time. If you'd use, say, 2 weeks, starting today, you would have availability of 10 weeks of FMLA. And then once we get back around to that 2-week part, it starts falling off. So we're in that rolling method of how much you've used.
Hopefully that clarifies it, but it prevents people from using 24 weeks of FMLA at the beginning and end of every year.
Questions? Are you comfortable with this also appearing on our next agenda? Okay, great. Thank you. As promised, that was quick.
Very quick. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Now we have the question, board members. Would you like to take a break, or do you want to finish this and then go into closed after a break?
We just have one E left, is
Yep.
that right?
Just, yep, superintendent and board comments.
I would like to take a break.
I would like to take a break as well.
Okay. We are going to take a break then until 6:50. Is that okay? 20 minutes? All right, we'll resume at 6:50. Welcome back to the Jordan School District Board of Education study session. Today is still May 12th, 2026, and we're continuing with our agenda item 1E, Board and Superintendent Reports and Comments.
I'll give a quick update. We've heard 2 agenda items today that were discussed in Facilities Committee. We are going to be starting our summer projects for 2027 discussions. And there was something that came up in our last Facilities Committee meeting related to these boundary changes. Just to give a brief history, the Facilities Committee was asked to review items 1 and 2 that we talked about today. The boundary alignment at the airport and down in the south end of the Bluffdale area. They didn't affect any students, and we just wanted to address feeder alignment. And that came to the Facilities Committee, I don't know, it might have been 6-7 months ago. And we didn't bring it forward out of committee. It came back at the request of staff again to the Facilities Committee, and then it did come out of committee, obviously, this time. But in the process, there were these other 2 surgical, maybe you could call it, boundary changes, and I felt a little uncomfortable in Facilities Committee discussing something that I thought should come to the whole board. I don't think the Facilities Committee in the past has been tasked with kind of previewing possible boundary changes. That seems more like a topic that should be given to the full board. I just wanted to get some input from the full board on whether or not you would want Facilities Committee to kind of preview boundary changes, or I was under the impression or of the opinion that boundary changes in general should come to the full board.
I guess my sense is anything that's been triggered that you review, and that action could be taken on, I would hope it would come to us to determine.
Yeah, I felt uncomfortable that 3 board members were making a decision on whether or not this should come to the full board, kind of a thing.
A recommendation or a decision?
A recommend.
Are you filtering it from the board based on what your discussion is?
It was filtered from the board 6-7 months ago because the committee didn't think it should come before the full board. Though that was items 1 and 2 that Mike shared. And then 3 and 4 were also brought to the committee. And it seemed to me that those boundary changes should come before the full board and not be filtered through us, whether or not we thought they should come to the full board.
I feel fine about items like this coming to the Facilities Committee first. I think that it's possible with some discussion in the committee meeting. I think it's okay if the committee decides this might not be the right time, or if the committee decides it is the right time to bring it to the board. I think it can save time in board meetings when committees do some groundwork or legwork before bringing something to the board. So, and I mean, if you feel uncomfortable with it, I'm not trying to take away your choice and free will. But I do appreciate when I've really admired how Facilities Committee functions. It seems very like it functions well, and I appreciate. It seems like you have constructive discussions so that when things do come to the board, there have been thoughts about it, and there are people on the board who have already talked about things and thought about things and can share what they think, or maybe they all have consensus, or maybe there are differing opinions. But I appreciate the work that you do, and I don't feel any discomfort about it going to facilities committee first, and then facilities committee making some kind of judgment about, is this the right time to bring it to the board, or does this need to be adjusted before we bring it to the board? All of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I guess my main question for the board would be, historically, has facilities committee previewed boundary changes? Has that been something that the facilities committee has done in the past? I've been on for a year and a half, I guess now, so I'm not sure if that's something that facilities committee is supposed to be doing, looking at boundary changes.
In the past, facilities committee is an opportunity to save the board a discussion that the board should not necessarily be taking the time to have. And so there's a balance between, we're going to have a discussion to see if it is worthy of a board discussion. Sometimes in facilities, we've had a brief discussion and it's like, okay, this is not something the board needs to be talking about. And we're pretty clear about that. Other times it's, okay, I've seen enough that this is a board issue. The purpose of the committee is to save the board time by having discussions outside of the public forum, not necessarily to avoid those discussions in the public forum. So there's going to be a balance between, we had numerous discussions in facilities that ended up, okay, this is clearly a board issue, let's take it to the board, versus, I don't think there's enough here to take to the board yet. And so that's kind of the balance between, can we save the board time? Because after an hour conversation, there was no decision to be made, versus, no, this is a decision the board needs to be making. So yes, there is precedence to have board discussions in committees to see if it's worthy of a board discussion.
In our policy, A13, the school consolidation or closure policy, the timeline specifies that the facilities committee should be the first group to receive information. And then they notify board members of which schools they have received information about. But they're the ones who do that initial analysis. They're the ones who look at potential resolutions and then determine if further action is recommended. What I would say is that's where the time saving comes in, is if you can come in and say, we recommend letting this one go. We're not going to worry. Or we recommend a discussion and here's a potential direction for that discussion. Then it's not leaving the board out of the conversation, but making it an efficient conversation.
A13 speaks specifically to school closure possibilities. And of course, when schools are closed, it does affect boundaries. But just boundary changes in general. For example, the boundary changes that we went through for Midas Creek and the Northwest area, those didn't go through facilities committee. And if there are other non-school closure related boundary changes, should those go through facilities committee? And I'm suggesting no, we don't want that additional responsibility unless,
because it's not a facility issue.
Yeah.
It's a crowding issue, that's a facility issue. But a boundary change, for example, Midas Creek was an alignment issue. That had nothing to do with a facility. It wasn't a facilities issue.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to get into this habit of, has this boundary change gone through the facilities committee yet? That's not really our role unless it's also tied to a specific duty of the facilities committee, right? Like school closures or not enough space in a particular school. Okay. Very good. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thanks for being so thoughtful and considerate of the board. I appreciate that. Others?
I can give an update on the Jordan Education Access Committee. We'll probably hear more about this in our public meeting in a couple of weeks, but they did sponsor the Multicultural Senior Night and Native Community Night this last week. I also want to highlight that they have had the best engagement at middle school that they've ever had. So kudos to the committee and all of their efforts to engage with middle schoolers. And just by way of information for the board, GIAC does partner with our Language and Cultural Services Department as well as with the Safe School hearings. They provide a family liaison at every hearing. So some of the work that may not be seen is still going on. Grateful for them. Government relations, we had last week a meeting with Senator Fillmore and Representative Miller at Bingham High School. They were able to get some swag, and we had some good engagement with them. We're able to talk about some of the, since the bill files have opened, we have a handful of education bills that have been proposed by Senator Fillmore and Representative Miller. So we're able to talk with them about those ideas, provide some feedback. Also shared with them what's been the discussion on our field houses.
Great.
And they were able to share opinions if they had them. What was that?
Do we get to know those opinions?
Senator Fillmore indicated that he had no preference one for or against. Senator Miller did express just understanding the those who are on a fixed income in our community.
Is she worried about optics a little?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or
Thank
come
you for
off.
that. And that's it for me.
I will just quickly report from PTA. They will be coming to our next meeting on the 26th to present awards. And then, oh, I didn't write down the day. In June, or is it May? I can't remember. Coming up, they have kind of their training for their incoming PTA presidents and treasurers. And since I'm assigned to sit in on their regional meetings, I volunteered to go to that training just to say hello to the new presidents and treasurers and just kind of give them a brief rundown of when we have our meetings, how they can access that information, and just kind of basic info on the board and say hello.
So, Jordan Education Foundation report. Also, on the 26th, the foundation will be presenting the Education Support Professional Awards at our board meeting. And it reminded me last year there were a lot of awards on that one day.
We're going to have a
lot of awards. It's amazing.
Buckle up.
Yeah. And also on Saturday was the challenge run at West Jordan Memorial Park. And then once again, June 6th is I think it's the golf tournament. I've been announcing it a lot, but I'm pretty sure it's on June 6th. But I will be more clear in our general business meeting about that. And then also I have my Salt Lake County Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting tomorrow. Those meetings are held every other month instead of monthly anymore. So that's it.
I have an issue from the Activities Association. As you know, a law was passed requiring schools to have an additional summer moratorium. So we have a Thanksgiving moratorium, a Christmas moratorium, a New Year's Day moratorium, what we're now calling a 4th of July moratorium, and one additional summer's moratorium. The Activities Association is leaning to recommending that it must be a Monday through Sunday. But there was considerable debate about allowing them to do any consecutive 7 days, so they could start on a Thursday and go to a Wednesday. The problem with that is parents, the spirit of this law was to allow parents to know that there is a week where my child is not going to be involved in sports and we can plan a summer activity or a vacation. And so something was said that I had not considered, and that is that a district make the decision as to when the summer moratorium would be. Some schools would welcome that because then they don't have to propose all these dates. I think the value of doing that is we send the message that all athletes in Jordan District will be on moratorium on these specific days. We are not required by the Activities Association to do so. I reached out to a couple schools and some of them welcomed that because it is a heavy lift for a school to say, here's what, you're going to put someone at a disadvantage. Now, every sport has the option of requesting a different moratorium. You don't have to follow your school's moratorium. You can request of the school, of the Activities Association, that your moratorium is different. But that puts the whole school in a bind for parents' sake. So I am wondering if this board would be interested in making a board decision that the moratorium for summer of 27 is this 7-day set. And we ask all schools to honor that so that parents know that there will be that your athlete will not be having practices or anything else during that 7 period district-wide. I think there's great value in considering that as a board action. If we don't, each school has to choose a week for themselves. So I would propose that to the board. I will make a formal motion at our public meeting, but I wanted to give you some time to think about that. Is there value in declaring a district summer moratorium for all sports? If you'll think about that, I'll make a motion next at our business meeting.
Can I ask you a question about it? Are you thinking this would be something we would have to decide every year? Would this be with the calendar committee to put on the calendar for 2 or 3 years notification? No.
We take board action to declare this is the moratorium for this summer every year.
I just think the sooner we notify families, the better. But I'm open to that.
It was interesting, the discussion at Activities Association, there's an executive committee made up of school personnel, and then there's a board of trustees made up of a significant number of board members. Now, guess which one thinks about the school, and guess which one thinks from the perspective of the parents. And the desire was to push this to an executive committee, and I know what's going to happen if that's the case. We will pick a week that is best for the athletes and the programs they participate in. If the board makes a decision, we will pick a day that is best for parents. And to say, now, every parent in the district knows I can plan a vacation on that week. And my athlete will not have any school obligations. So think about it. I'll propose something next board meeting. I just want to give you some time to think about it.
If anyone is interested in the next JLC meeting, that is happening on Friday at 10 o'clock at the USBA offices, but there's also a Zoom option. Let me know if you want that link.
Speaking of the JLC, our JLC building, the lettering is up and it looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh, Is it on Google Maps yet?
Initially, it went up with silver lettering, and it blended into the building and into the metal that held it, and then they painted it black, and it just looks fantastic.
And this is not a committee report. This is just a couple board member comments, and I am the board member making them. So there are, I understand if nobody wants to support things that are on the agenda item tracking sheet, but I'm hoping that people are looking periodically to see if there are things that they are willing to support. And then also, I have been enjoying this book called Why School Boards Matter. If we wanted to do some kind of book study, I have other suggestions also, but this one has been very interesting too. So those are my 2 comments.
I also have just a couple of, these are not committee assignments, but things that I've been doing in my community or feedback that I've been receiving that I wanted to keep you apprised of. The first, I have received multiple requests from constituents that we consider our watering patterns. Some of our schools were watering as early April. And I just want to put it out there that this is the worst drought that the state of Utah has in recorded history. In the past, we have chosen to cut back on watering, to be responsible citizens, and that is something that I would like to see us do. I understand that field space is a different scenario, and that when we have kids running in cleats, grass is a different situation, but we have so much grass at our schools that is not field space that I would really appreciate a discussion on ways that we can control that. I believe that right now it is a decision that is left to individual schools, and I believe that custodians feel like they do not have the right to let their grass go brown without board direction. So that is something, I don't know that we need to solve it tonight, but I'm curious if there's interest in a future discussion on that. I called a few of you. It sounded split, so.
To go along with that, I was planning on putting on the agenda item tracking sheet, just maybe a board discussion and study of re-landscaping areas that have grass where students are not using the grass to make the areas more water wise, and I because I would like to be responsible, at the same time I think it's something we could discuss a lot of different approaches, or at least several different approaches.
I would support this. I'd like a little bit of a deeper dive, and maybe it's a facilities type question, because my questions around the water use delve more into our relationships with our cities in which we reside and what their regulations might be, or how we can work with them better and be better partners in both cutting down on our water. And so, yeah.
Okay. And then just by way of keeping you aware, I was able to go meet with a few residents that are adjacent to Copper Hills High School on Friday. And they are concerned about noise and lights and the frequency that they are occurring. I bring this up to make the board aware that there is a petition right now going around regarding that. And we had a good discussion about some potential solutions, but in terms of the existing lights and sound equipment, I think Scott told me that we have had a team out there more than 20 times to make adjustments. There's not much more that we can do in terms of adjustment at this point. But in terms of like being thoughtful about practice music, doesn't necessarily have to go over the big loudspeakers. It could be lower. I had this meeting in the residents' backyard, and it was...
Is it Janet?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And I was able to understand a lot from sitting in the backyard, because the situation really is, because we have two areas that kind of bump up against our field space there. One we don't hear from, one we do. And so I was curious, like, why is it so different? And as I went into the backyard, she explained, like, okay, this 4 or 5 feet of fence gets me to the road level. And then this is the 6 feet of fence that the city puts in. And then this one resident has chosen to add an additional several feet to the top of her fence to try to block light and noise. But it was like, oh, now I understand, because Copper Hills is just so much higher than the neighborhood that seems to be having the problems. And the way that we direct noise in our speakers is by pointing them down at the field. So then I was like, oh, so I don't know that we can solve this, but I just wanted to update the board that what facilities has been doing and what the neighborhood has been doing, in case you get information from them. And I have several pages of information that I can send to you if you are interested.
So what is the petition for exactly?
Stop playing sports at Copper Hill.
A reduction in noise. So
whatever
it's
and
not very
however that
specific.
might be. Okay.
The petition is letting us know that they find it is affecting their quality of life.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know that there's a specific ask attached to it. We've heard lots of fun ideas. So. Okay. Is that it from board members? Dr. Godfrey, anything from you?
Yes. Excuse me. We sent an update to teachers and administrators regarding the data incident with Instructure and Canvas. To our understanding, no information has been released. None of the data has been released. And we have a meeting with Instructure tomorrow. Once we get more information, we'll be sending an email out to parents and teachers. But it's a critical time where we need Skyward and Canvas to be talking with each other. And we anticipate that will be up and running fully in the next couple of days. We're optimistic that will happen.
I sense it was a shot across the bow from someone who didn't have ill intentions to make us aware of our vulnerability.
What I know is there's a lot I don't know about this. It's very mysterious. So,
The nationwide.
yeah, it's Harvard is experiencing the same issues, so I feel pretty good about that.
That means someone knew what they were doing.
Someone knew what they were doing. It's, what was it, 250 million worldwide, something like that. So it's a lot of term papers. So I appreciate communications, info systems, teaching and learning, all the groups that have been working on this, and USBE, others that have been involved. So we'll give updates. We hope to have things resolved this week.
Thank you. Okay, we have reached the end of our agenda, but we do have some closed session items. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session for character and competence of individuals, property, potential litigation, negotiations, and security. And that upon ending, or we come to the end of our closed session, our meeting will adjourn.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion for Ms. Barrow, a second by Dr. Robinson, that we move into closed session, and that upon completion of our closed session agenda, our meeting will adjourn, and that closed session will be held at the JATC South Campus. All right, I will take a roll call vote. Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Barrow?
Yes.
Mr. Dunford?
Yes.
And Mr. Burnett?
Yes.
I am also a yes. That vote is unanimous. Thank you for coming tonight, and good luck with the last weeks of school.